You're fine. No tech issues.
What was just witnessed was a series of IED attacks against American soldiers overseas. IED attacks are improvised explosive devices used against many people. Now, what these IED devices do is not only leave physical scars, but also mental scars that cannot be treated as easily as most people think. Now, this poses the question, to what extent does post-traumatic stress disorder affect a post-Operation Desert Storm veteran beginning in 1991 ability to gain employment? Now, the solution I came up with after research was allowing coping mechanisms and increased treatment options to veterans will allow an increase in safe work to the veteran community. Now, as seen in Bob Dylan's song, Blowing in the Wind, which is spoken on the Vietnam War, one of the highest rates of PTSD, with a 33% PTSD according to epidemiology of PTSD by James Grouse of Veteran Affairs. The answer is always blowing in the wind, and there is always a possible answer. Now, why this all matters, according to the National Coalition of the Homeless, 130,000 veterans on a single night in January were found to be homeless. Now, this also matters because anyone can suffer from PTSD. Now, this brings up, what exactly is post-traumatic stress disorder? Post-traumatic stress disorder is a condition that occurs after a traumatic mental trauma, according to the Mayo Clinic. This can also bring up multiple side effects, such as alteration and reactivity to different events, flashbacks, the fight or flight reactivity, exclusion from people, stressors which actually initiate these kinds of anxiety attacks, depression attacks, and flashbacks. Now, how this specifically affects veterans. So a combined percentage between 23 and 32% of veterans are affected with PTSD. This is according to the VA. Combat PTSD is one of the most severe versions of PTSD, and this is what usually affects combat veterans as they see combat on a regular basis, such as these IED attacks, which can leave horrendous injuries. How this specifically affects the work environment. As previously mentioned, stressors are the cause of these flashbacks and the fight or flight response. Multiple triggers are constantly appearing in the workplace. Triggers can include smells, sights, different sounds that all bring back these mental flashbacks. Now, these flashbacks propose anxiety attacks and the fight or flight response. The fight or flight response is a natural human instinct which increases adrenaline levels and allows the body to take over rather than the mind. According to the Department of Labor Statistics, veterans are also unemployed in 2018 was 3.8%. Now, in the grand scheme of things, this is still between 30 to 45,000 veterans that are unemployed. So treatment is traditionally with medication and traditional therapy methods. This is mainly proposed by the VA, but there are heavy limitations with this problem. As seen in this political cartoon, during a war, a veteran is raised on a pedestal for doing what they need to do. After a war, once they return, people are constantly bashed. Now, a veteran is beaten into a state where they continue to push forward. This pushing forward also affects them once they get home. Naturally, not wanting to seek treatment from the VA leaves a large amount of undiagnosed veterans with PTSD. So the solution I proposed after a large amount of research is programs such as PET for Vets and Workplace Understanding and Cooperation. Now, PET for Vets is a system that pairs veterans with PTSD or other health issues with a service or companion animal. The entire purpose of these service or companion animals is to, as seen here, with a Lowe's employee who was actually hired with his service dog, is to calm the veteran and alert to any form of PTSD or anxiety spike. Now, through a rigorous process that is a selection process with the animal, basing on temperament, activity levels, what kind of environments these veterans will be exposed to, these animals are paired to their veterans specifically. Now, as seen in this specific example, Lowe's hired a man with PTSD. They also hired his service dog and his service dog in training. This allowed the veteran to continually work in his environment, and he's actually one of their top employees according to CNN. Thank you. What questions do you have?
All right, Matt, thank you. I got 2 questions for you. First up, how did your research how did your research question evolve as you moved through the process?
So originally when I came up with my research question, I was basing it off of the ability to gain interviews from a couple companies I have had work with in the past. Now these rifles are known as the Black Rifle Coffee Company and Lunkers TV. Now unfortunately I wasn't able to fully set up interviews within the time limit, so this did change my question to a more specific time period between Operation Desert Storm to present day, from Vietnam to present day.
All right, and if my hand would work. Next question, what advice would you have for other people that consider this topic?
So for this topic, I was only focused within Operation Desert Storm, which began in 1991. I would say look into other time periods, such as Vietnam, which was mentioned by Bob Dylan's song, and look into statistics. Also with the epidemiology of PTSD given by the Department of Veteran Affairs, they did have statistics on the Vietnam War, and I would have liked to explore those, and I believe others could also explore these as well.
This is your